Alright, this is our Matlab video, just to kind of go over a brief intro to how you use the app. So, here we go. This is the desktop version of Matlab, but I'm sure that the online version is fairly similar. So the first thing that we need to know is how to read in documents. So I'm going to create a new live script so that I can show you guys. One, I'll show you how to create different sections for your lab report. So whenever you see this gray box, that means that you are importing code. So this would be similar to if information was put in the command window. So if I wanted to say create a variable that x is equal to 2, and if I did, if I wanted to find variable y, y would be equal to x plus 5, which we would expect to be 7, right? So you can see whenever I create variables, they show up in this workspace window. So that would be very similar if I wanted to try code down here to see if it works. I could also do the same thing up here where I say x is equal to 2 and y is equal to x plus 5, right? I basically get the same thing if I run this information. Variables get created in the workspace, and I also can see, the cool thing about Live Editor is you can see how your variables pan out in this little side window here. You can change the view of that side window, so if you want it to pop up underneath your script, you can also change it to just be. I like the default view the best, but I'm going to clear all. So I'll just run that really quickly, so that you can see cleared my workspace. If I put CLC, that'll clear the command window. So if I can run this individually, and now you see my command window is completely gone. So those are kind of like cool little functions. I want to get rid of all of this though, because it's not pertinent to what I'm talking about. So when you create a live script, it's listed as a .mlx format. Okay, so within this live editor, you can see you can shift between text and code. So right now we're in a code setting, but if I want to shift to text, so when you're writing your lab report, that little gray box will go away, and anything I type will now be similar to a Word document. So within this, we can create headings. So if I want my title, if say we're generating a report for lab 1, right, you put lab and the number. And then examples given in class where that maybe you put your name, the course, as well as the date. Okay, so that's kind of your header for your lab report. You then can create a section break, which goes like that, right? So now this section, you can see this little blue highlighted area. Anything in this section will only be run or edited when I actually click in that section. So in this next section, I can create a heading. Let's say we do heading number 1, and I can call this my introduction, right? And then we would say something along the lines of like the purpose of this study was to ... and then you fill in, create another section break. Again, we want text. We want a heading, right? This could be our method section where we insert our procedures. You can create another section for your for your results. You can create another section for your questions that you're going to be answering. It was suggested that you can go between Microsoft Word and the live editor because this doesn't have spell check. So if you want to write your lab report in Microsoft Word and then copy and paste your text into the live editor, that is a possibility. I have created a lab report template for you guys, just so it's a little bit easier. That way you're not having to learn this live script on your own, because it does take a little bit of clicking around to get used to. But basically, you can use this template to fill in the blanks, right? So I will give this file to you in the email that this video link is located in. But I want to show you how to read in this data. And this will also apply to the chat field sample data that we have. In order to open this, I actually have to close it though. So I'm not going to save what I just made, but I want to, let's say I want to open a live. Actually, I don't need to open a live script. I just remembered. So when you read in data, this area up here is the pathway in your computer. So generally, I think what happens is that Matlab should be, see this Matlab folder. When you install the program, it'll direct a Matlab or create a Matlab folder in a certain directory, and it should specify that when you download the program. But if I go to Matlab, you can see there is like sample data of a workshop that I did. This is kind of the default directory that Matlab creates. If you want to change that directory, so say like I have data from this class saved on my desktop in this DANC 241 folder. You can see that this folder is kind of shaded. So when I hover over it, you can see that this message pops up that it's not in the Matlab path. And so that means I don't necessarily have access to any of these folders. But if you right-click and you say Add to Path, you can either add that selected folder or selected folders and subfolders, which I'm going to do. So now you can see that when I, click out of this area, this is now a nice color. It's not as transparent. So within this, I can open up all of these folders now I have access to, and anything in the folders I also have access to. So whenever you see these grids, those are mat files, okay? And you can see when I hover over them in the actual file name, it's ending in .mat. So let's say we wanted to read in our chat field data. This is now in our pathway, so you could double click on it, and our chat field data is now imported into the workspace. Okay, this is the code that you could use. So if you wanted to load something in without double clicking on it, you could say load, and then you would type in the pathway, basically. I think it's easier if it's a mat file. You just double click and it goes straight where you want it to. So that's one way to read in data. And then if you actually want to look at the data, so this is the chat field data for your first lab, if you double click on the data in the workspace, it should bring up a view that looks similar to an Excel spreadsheet. And then you can view what is in this workspace, pretty much. Okay. And we call this a matrix. So that's, Matlab is largely based on matrices. It's actually called the matrix laboratory. So a matrix has vectors, which would be see these numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. This would be the vector of how many columns exist in this matrix, and this would be the vector. These numbers represent the vector that represents how many rows are in the matrix. And so similar to Microsoft Excel, if you've worked with that before, you can call on different values within your matrix. So when I click, if I wanted this number specifically, that's located at 6, 4. Right, in this matrix. So kind of similar if you were reading a campus map or something. But that's how you read in data and view information in your workspace. Let's say though that I'm not interested in variables, and rather I am interested in uploading this template that I've made for you guys. Okay, so I stored mine in the DANC 241 folder on my computer. So if I double click that, it should open in Matlab as a live script. So you can see the live script is different from the window I just had open because it says live editor. It has this screen with the workspace on the side and the command window at the bottom. But pretty much all you guys have to do is fill in your name, the date. The table of contents has already been created, so anytime you click on any of these components, it'll automatically shortcut you down to different areas of your lab report. But I've put in some guidelines on what you're putting in here. So for methods, usually you want to make a comment on who your participants were, what your procedures were, if there was any relevant equipment that you used to measure your data, and then any of the analysis methods that you use to analyze your data. So in the chat field procedures, I think you guys are going to be doing correlations and calculating means and standard deviations. So you would explain how you analyzed your raw data using certain mathematical processes, and I can always help you guys if you're unsure on the language to use for that. The results area is where any Matlab code that you generate is going to go, in addition to any tables and figures that you decide to insert into your report. And the discussion section is where all of the questions go from the actual lab document that has all of your activity instructions. So hopefully this template makes it a little bit easier to ease into using Matlab. And then after, because it is a template, after you make changes, so let's say I want to start editing this and I want to put my name in, right? After you make some sort of edit, you can have the option to save as. So I would suggest after, you label this lab 1, put your name, the course number, and the date, that you save as, right? And after you click, I think it's going to do it. Yeah. Save as, rename this file. So you could say lab report 1, right? And make sure it's an MLX format. So this will be the live script. That way you save your progress as a live script. That way you can continue editing within Matlab if you need to take a break from writing your script. Okay. Once you're completely done creating your lab report in the live script, you can save as or export to a PDF, and that'll be the document that you actually submit to Moodle. And just so you guys know where to locate that, within our course, right, we have, oh, I have no internet, I forgot. Well, within the course, the week that the lab is due is where the link to submit the assignment will be located. So for lab 1, technically it's due by the end of week 2, so the link for uploading your lab report is in week 2. Okay, hopefully that'll make sense. I can always show you guys in office hours or in individual appointments if you need help with that. But that's kind of a brief intro to Matlab.